Let's dive into the crypto markets with Bitwise Asset Management President Teddy Fusaro, a guy who loves his parents and shows it on Twitter all the time when he tweets to them. Hi, Teddy. Good morning.
Hey, Lawrence. It's good morning to you. Hi, Jen. Nice way to start a Friday.
Hey, Teddy.
And you are absolutely correct that I love my parents.
Yeah, it's always fun to see those tweets. We're looking at Bitcoin now falling a little bit, and that's even though it seems like there's going to be a deal between Congress and the president potentially before the June 1st deadline, so as soon as next week. Why do you think that is? You would think that you have some sort of settlement with the crisis, and that it would be a risk-on environment. Why isn't the market getting the memo?
Interesting question, Lawrence. I think in talking with Jeff Park, our head of alpha strategies here at Bitwise, he has been noting how eerie it is that both realized and implied volatility is so low. And that's true in both the crypto market and in the broader equity market, where the VIX is also, the VIX volatility index is also abnormally low. It signals that we're due for a breakout one way or another, and that's something that we're watching pretty closely.
Do you think some of that volatility has to do with the idea that, okay, we've raised interest rates now in the United States. It looks like we're going to go higher for longer. There's been some indication that whatever pause might be that the market might have expected for June, that seems to be fading a little bit, that expectation. So is it that this idea that, leverage is no longer a way to play this market because it's more expensive, if you will, to take leverage positions in the market? Therefore, you don't get that volatility. People have other uses for their dollars, that they can get more secured returns than risking it in Bitcoin and other crypto.
That's a good point, Lawrence. I think the macro environment is pretty neutral right now. The Fed, as you mentioned, has continued to hike interest rates. A few weeks ago, I would have told you that we thought they were done. The size of those rate hikes has diminished in recent months, but we've seen a little bit of a shift in market expectations over the last week or so, and now the market is pricing in maybe a 40% chance of another 25 basis point hike in June. And I think you made a good point, Lawrence. It is increasingly challenging to allocate in your own portfolio or for your financial advisor to allocate for you or advise you to allocate to something different when you can earn such a high rate of return on your cash right now. And that's a new dynamic that this market is in.
So speaking of new dynamics, you had this thing where you're looking at cycles of Bitcoin, and there have been three, every time there are 3 fat years, there's 1 lean year. For me, it's every time there are 3, there's 1 lean decade, it's 3 fat decades. When I look at that, that happened in a low interest rate environment, right? The life of Bitcoin, the life of most of Bitcoin has been in low interest rate environments. Why do you think that this cycle will continue in a new paradigm where interest rates and inflation have risen, and we now have just kind of a different economy than we had before?
Yeah, it sure is different. And Jen, it's fun to do this in the morning. I'm sure you get a lot of laughs. I think what our chief investment officer, Matt Hogan, was presenting to a large group of financial advisors last week, and I had the pleasure of tuning in. And here's what we talk about at Bitwise about as it relates to the crypto market. I think we look at 3 different things to try to understand where we are. We look at the macro environment, we look at the crypto environment, and then we look at the asset-specific environment. And right now, I think the macro environment is neutral. Despite all the things we talked about, I think it's neutral. I think the crypto environment is bad. The regulatory overhang is harsh, at least domestically, and we expect that to go on for some time. We are very long-term optimistic and bullish. We think we're going to come out of that long, dark tunnel eventually, and we'll emerge from it. And we do see, by the way, other developed and emerging markets in Asia and Europe are making really positive steps forward in this in this part of the set of things that we look at. And the third thing that we look at, which maybe is the most important, is the asset-specific environment, the asset-specific news relative to tokens or protocols. And that is actually quite bullish. We're really, really positive and really excited about what's going on there. We see technical improvements on the Ethereum blockchain that are frankly revolutionary. The Ethereum protocol, as you both know, is right now a deflationary asset in terms of its issuance of new ETH tokens. The technical improvements there are nothing short of groundbreaking. And we think that this new uncomfortable broader market and geopolitical environment is actually a big tailwind for Bitcoin. Very positive. The banking issues are positive for Bitcoin, and the things that are being called into question on the international relations front are positive for Bitcoin. So we think there's a lot that goes into that blender.
So it's not on Ozempic yet, like I am.
Oh my gosh, Lawrence. Teddy, let's take a look at this chart you provided. It illustrates the returns of the Bitwise 10 large cap crypto index. Can you just explain the significance here? Talk us through this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the three things that I talked about with the macro environment, with the crypto asset environment, and with the asset-specific environment all show you that we're at a bit of an inflection point. You think about what I mentioned off the top with the low volatility. You think about those three different categories that I mentioned being not uniformly pointing in one direction. I think that it means that we're in a place where there is something that is going to happen soon. And I have a kind of a funny story, or not funny, but a vision that I had in my mind. My children were eating this large, juicy watermelon last weekend. And the thing that I thought about was that a watermelon starts as a tiny little seed. In fact, you usually plant a number of seeds in order to get one of these big, juicy fruits that can feed a whole family. And it turns into a number of sprouts, and some of the sprouts die. And then eventually one of those grows and emerges, and it turns into this bigger thing than where it started. And right now, I think we're in that planting phase where seeds are being planted. We see very disciplined institutional investors and financial advisors who are taking small, well-managed positions and allocations to this market. And I think that once the spring comes and we get through the summer and the fall arrives and the harvest time is here, there are going to be some of us who can enjoy the fruit of that harvest. And that's really an image that I had in my mind about where we are in the cycle right now.
Well, I'm just hungry.
Yeah, I was going to say, Teddy, you're making me want some watermelon.
Same here. And I can assure you it was all over the place with my children.
Yeah.
Teddy, thank you very much for joining us this morning. That was Bitwise Asset Management President Teddy Fusaro.